Assessors must be able to develop assessment tools. This lesson provides guidance to assessors about developing assessment tools. Assessment is a quality assurance process, and in order to have quality at the end, we must have quality in the development of the assessment. When developing assessments, the assessor must ensure the assessment is valid. That means the assessor must develop an assessment that accurately measures the job-critical knowledge, skills, and abilities required for proficient job performance. Assessment is the process of collecting evidence and making judgments on whether competency has been achieved. The purpose of assessment is to confirm that an individual can perform to the standard expected in the workplace as expressed in the relevant industry competency standards. The questions considered by the assessor when developing the assessment should include: will the assessment be conducted under realistic working conditions that adequately assess the candidate's abilities to perform his or her duties on the job? Will the candidate be required to demonstrate the skills and knowledge that are identified in the assessment as critical to proficiency? Will the candidate be required to rely on his or her own skills and knowledge? When you are conducting a practical demonstration assessment, your main focus should be on observing the candidate. The second priority is to record evidence. So it follows that the assessment tools have to be developed for ease and speed of use. You want to develop assessment tools that are easy to score and grade. You want to use a font size and font colors that will work in the field. You should, unless you want to be the assessor who drops his papers and they scatter in a wind, consider having the forms bound together in logical order and a clipboard. As a successful assessor, you will develop and own many assessment tools. You will have to create an easy-to-use filing system to keep track of them and locate exactly which one you need. During the assessment debrief, the candidates are asked to score their own performance on the NTA's observation checklist, in the candidates column. To avoid the assessor scores influencing the candidates' scores, you should score separately and add your scores to the NTA's form after the candidate. You can also include reminders for your own actions on your assessor-only checklist. Always develop assessment tools suitable for the level of the vocational qualification. Here is a list of the assessment tools you will develop for this course. So imagine if you had to assess a class of 20 people and had to keep track of each candidate's forms. Please help yourself by considering that naming and filing are important in developing assessment tools. This is the assessment tool for your project. Please note the units assessed in this project are listed, and there is a simple grading system, with each product carrying equal marks. The grading system can be varied, with some products being more valuable. The assessment tools must include very clear instructions. The products or deliverables of the project must be clearly stated. Practical demonstrations are a very effective assessment tool. They capture a lot of key evidence. Please note the units assessed in this practical demonstration. The overall grading system of the practical demonstration is stated. The tasks for the practical demonstration are taken from the dimensions of competency created in the assessment design stage. The tasks to be performed are clearly stated on the assessment tool. Please note that in addition to the overall grading system, there is a condition about achieving a minimum of 3 points for each step of each task. You are reminded that during the assessment debriefing, the candidate is asked to score their own performance on the NTA's observation checklist. It is helpful to create your own observation checklist for the reasons described in the tip before. Here is the observation checklist that is heavily based on the practical demonstration. Notice that there are columns for the candidate to rate his own performance. Refer to the student's manual for details on completing and submitting this project. You are required to create an assessor-only checklist for your practical demonstration assessment. Review your standard and your dimensions of competency to create your document. Remember, you may include extra notes, prompts, and questions as required. Refer to the student's manual for details on completing and submitting this project. You are required to download the template of the observation checklist from the LMS and use the information from your standard your assessor-only practical demonstration assessment and your dimensions of competency to create your observation checklist. Another type of assessment tool is a task book. This task book is an assessment tool for seafarers while they are on board a boat for 6 months. The tasks were created by using the performance criteria from the occupational standard. The task book contains details about supervision and safety in performing the tasks. The tasks are performed several times and the supervisor initials and dates when he is satisfied. The employer and assessor can inspect the candidate's task book periodically to note progress. The completed task book becomes part of the candidate's portfolio. This work log or journal is an assessment tool for the outboard motor maintenance course delivered in a workshop over 5 days. The journal has each day's activities pre-printed and a space for candidates to add their own notes and comments. An oral assessment tool should state the units related to the assessment and show the grading system. This is part of the oral assessment for your course. We think it is a good example of a lazy assessment. Questions asking for definitions are for academics and they are too easy to write. Vocational assessors can use oral questioning to ask situational questions. For example, SS&T uses oral questioning to check seafarers' contingency management skills. Remember we said definition questions are too easy to write? Well, writing the expected responses for situational questions can be very difficult. Wait. What's that second characteristic of CBET? Is that innovative delivery? That means, with commonplace 21st century technology, we can easily record the oral questions, record the expected responses, and the candidate's responses. Don't worry, we are not going to put you through the recording for this course, that is a real-world solution. You can do some lazy, academic, definition questions for your portfolio, but ensure they relate to the units being assessed. Refer to the student's manual for details on completing and submitting this project. You are required to create an oral assessment for your assessment. Review your standard and your dimensions of competency to create your document. It can be challenging to create 10 oral or written questions for just a few units. You are allowed to add questions from, for example, an HSE unit to make 10 questions. A written assessment tool should state the units related to the assessment and show the grading system. Stop thinking about making multiple choice questions. Stop thinking about making multiple choice questions. They are not accepted as your portfolio submission for the short answer written assessment. In the real world, multiple choice questions are useful for formative assessments. Vocational qualifications have different levels. The assessment CVQ you are studying is at level 4. That means a successful candidate can perform the role of a specialized or supervisory worker in the field of assessment. Always create assessments suitable for the level of the vocational qualification. Written assessments do not have to be, and should not be, like academic questions. We don't think it is fair to ask candidates to write an essay, not even a short essay. In vocational jobs, the writing is usually record-keeping and form-filling. We recommend lists, statements, and even paragraphs where words or phrases are removed, and the blanks have to be filled in. Depending on the level of the standard and the industry culture, you can provide a word bank with answers, or not. Refer to the student's manual for details on completing and submitting this project. You are required to create a written assessment for your assessment. Review your standard and your dimensions of competency to create your document. It can be challenging to create 10 oral or written questions for just a few units. You are allowed to add questions from, for example, an HSE unit to make 10 questions. Refer to the student's manual for details on completing and submitting this project. You are required to create an assessment for your assessment using one of the methods you haven't used already. Choose from role, play/simulation, restrictive essay, case study, or projects. Review your standard, your dimensions of competency, and your other assessments to create your document. The task book and the work journal shown in this lesson, and these products, are examples of projects. Role play or simulation can involve the assessor acting in the role of an auditor and interacting with the candidate as such. As for restrictive essay and case study, do your own research and find out more. Those methods are more suited to academic studies, and we are vocational purists. Please do not confuse literacy and numeracy with intelligence when you develop your assessments. Literacy and numeracy are just two of many skills that humans can have. Literacy and numeracy skills dominate modern society because of the super farms and supermarkets that make eating easy. Advanced literacy and numeracy skills will get someone a prestigious, well-paying job, like an accountant, in the corporate office of a food giant like Nestle. The diagnostic and manual skills of a mechanic keeps the accountant's water pump and car working. The mechanic's skills also keep the factory's machines working to maximize profits, while the accountant tries to cut staff costs every day. Most of the mechanics and the farmers who picked the oranges and milked the cows are happy. They love what they have to do every day. Many very intelligent people want to work outdoors. Many very intelligent people prefer to repair things than to shuffle papers all day. Many very intelligent people hate the petty politics and hypocrisy of office work. Many very intelligent people prefer to wear coveralls and boots than ties and scarves. As assessors, it is our duty to develop assessment tools, regardless of what is written in the standards, that prove competency in the main skills and in an appropriate way. Formative assessments are used to monitor student learning to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by instructors to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. More specifically, formative assessments help students identify their strengths and weaknesses and target areas that need work. There is no grade awarded.